Welcome to my channel. I am happy that you're here for this Noble Energy Map reading, which is a synthesis of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, the chakra system, astrology, the I Ching, and developmental critical times in baby's development. The reading will take you through the periods of early development and synthesize for you the way the energy flow developed over time. And it shows how you're designed over the mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical worlds, and gives you a broad perspective of how you navigate those worlds in your life, how you make decisions, how you think about things, how you pick up energy from other people, where you're sensitive and where you're empowered. Spend this time with me and learn from the reading I'm doing for the person I'm reading for. And then come back, sign up yourself for a free reading, and join me to empower your life. Welcome. And how much do you know about design and the Noble Energy Maps that I'm going to be using? Are you
I
familiar or are you a beginner?
I would say I'm a beginner. I was introduced to human design almost exactly a year ago, and in terms of the noble design and maps, like I saw like a handout and I like have like looked through it, but I haven't known or learned much past what I've intuited.
Okay. So I will share my screen,
Mhm.
and that way you'll see your chart and what I've done with it. I've done, because this is a full reading, I've done the Noble Energy Maps and also your astrology.
Great.
Okay. This is the mandala. Uh, in Noble Energy Maps and in human design, the body map inside of this mandala is showing a synthesis. And I like to use the actual expanded synthesis. So when we in design, um, the body map is integrating multiple calculations, not just the moment you were born. In the basic human design body graph, we look at a calculation 88 solar degrees before birth. And we do that because that's when a baby moves into the third trimester and the cortex becomes impressionable. So we know, for example, that if a pregnant woman plays music in the first trimester, the baby's not going to respond to it after it's born necessarily. But when music is played in the third trimester, the baby remembers it because the cortex is impressionable and is registering. So we use that third trimester because the baby is preparing to be in the world. So when I'm looking at a chart, the prenatal for you was in Virgo. And then by the time you were born, the sun had moved to the 11th hexagram. What we do in design is we have the basic tree of life model, and then we use astrological calculations to determine where the planets were at different time frames. And then we put them into the body graph. So the body graph is a synthesis of the tree of life, astrology, the hexagrams of the I Ching. So each astrological degree is correlated with a hexagram in the I Ching. And then the piece that I added that makes it noble energy maps is developmental critical periods in prenatal and postnatal development. So by the time you were 3 months old, the sun had moved all the way to the 36th hexagram. So half of the wheel had been imprinted into your prenatal and natal energetic aura. The earth moves around the other side of the wheel. So by the time you or anyone is 3 months old, we have half a quadrant and another quadrant and the earth moving around. The whole zodiac has been imprinted into your aura. And what happened and the way I developed these charts, and I always explain it in a reading, was that in 1999, Ra Uru Hu, was the messenger of the design system, asked my husband, who's a medical doctor, and me, I'm a psychologist, to validate the system scientifically. My training was at the University of Chicago. I got my PhD there in the Department of Human Development, which was itself a synthesis of psychology, sociology, anthropology, and biology, 4 worlds. So my background is to synthesize disciplines and material. And I was trained as a researcher. So Ra asked if we would validate it scientifically, and it fell to me to do the statistics. I did prove that the body graph holds. It's valid. I did studies, and I am publishing the statistics, and I'm also publishing the original books I published with Ra. I published 13 books with Ra when we were working together. So he gave me what he called the dream design, a 15-gate matrix that when we sleep, we go horizontal and we move into a 15-gate spiritual matrix. I print it as a 64-gate matrix because of the transits, but the prenatal lunar design is what happens when we sleep. When we sleep, we move into a lunar matrix rather than a solar matrix. And what Ross said to me is, when we sleep, the voice told him, we move into a lunar matrix, 15 gates. And that is the design of a mammal. At the time I met Ra, we had quite a few cats. And I knew that cats and dogs sleep, but they also dream. So we were missing a calculation for if this is a dream design of a human and a sleep design of a mammal, we needed the sleep design of a mammal because this would be the dream design of a mammal. And so I had twin kittens with birth times to the second. And so one died at age 10 of cardiomyopathy, and the other one died at 18, perfectly healthy. and they were identical twins. So I used their chart. And as an astrologer, trained astrologer, I knew that we could look at a lunar minute and see if it differentiated, and it did. And at the time, I also had been given an emotional angelic matrix, which is 33 gates. So using the solar minute for that matrix, I ended up with 4 worlds: the mental world, the spiritual and dream world, the emotional world, and the physical hormonal world. And I know that the first 3 months of a baby's life are considered the missing fourth trimester. So I did the postnatal as well. And they track with developmental times in a baby's development. 3 months before birth, a week before when the soul comes in, 2 days before when the baby's in the birth canal and hormones change, an hour and a half before birth is transition. An hour and a half after birth, the baby's breathing on its own. 2 days after birth, the milk comes down, attachment happens. It's happening for those 2 days, but then when the colostrum turns to milk, we have a bond between mother and baby, a stronger bond. A week after birth, the spiritual body comes in. It's anchored. And that's when cultures have ceremonies to name the baby, to bring them into the religion, etc. And then 3 months after birth, you have volition. So what I look at is all of these: what turns on, what turns off, and then ultimately the composites, where what I've found is that 99% of the population are manifesting generators. In correcting your chart from AM to PM, we see that the sun still moved from the 6 to the 11 to the 36. So and the explanation about how I got the calculations remains the same. What happens is, in your human design chart, you would be considered a split definition projector because you have the root through the 5432. The 32 is your moon, and the 54-4 is Saturn. And that's rather important, just off the top in looking at a design, because even though it's not your sun or your earth or your moon, the 32 is your moon, and that channel goes from the root to the splenic center, where it's extremely important that you set goals for yourself and that you take care of your body when setting the goals, and that the goals have a spiritual undertone to them, because spirit from your design is extremely important. But it's also very noticeable in the progression of your designs: the mental world, the spiritual world, the emotional world, and the physical world, before you were born and after you were born. And what we can see immediately is that on a spiritual level, you immediately got another channel, the 5818. So it's extremely aligning to you to take time before you decide or do anything to know what's right for you, frequency-wise, and goal-wise. And those need to match. Now, you do get a lot in the head and the ajna, so you are a channel. You can know of what's going on with people without them telling you a lot of times. And you do pick up emotions and physical in your body. You're a definite empath. I want to look at the integrated, where you never get the sacral center and you remain a split definition. 99% of the population are manifesting generators. You happen not to be, but you have 2 channels with 3 activations from the root going toward the splenic center. Very strong intuition, very strong sense about where you need to put yourself. All possibilities, Graham, are open to you. And Chiron is activating the 62 and the 56. So you're always trying to understand other people, sometimes at the expense of yourself. And notice that postnatally, how open you were. Now, if we go back and look at the timing, and I'd like you to think about your early development, because the charts at the time you were 3 months old are showing that you were extremely open to the energies around you. And you were making choices about what was right for you, maybe based on the energy of the people around you, and not necessarily what was right for you on a sacral level. So it could have pulled you away from yourself. And depending on how tuned in your parents were to you, would determine what you did with it. I'm looking at the self center and the fact that it was there at birth and then you lost it. But you did gain the 10, and you do gain the 15 a week after you were born. And so when I look at your composite, the heart center to the solar plexus are activated through the 4037 and the 6 and the 36. So you pick up energy from people. My question is how you handle it and whether or not you've taken on the task of transforming it for people. You capable of that, but I'm not sure if it's right for you or not. So you're someone who needs goals. You pick up on frequency. The 5818 is a channel called judgment. In the tree of life, we're given certain directives, if you will. The tree of life shows us that we begin in the sacral center. Now, what's interesting is that your sacral center is not activated. So it doesn't mean you don't have it. What it means is that you have all possibilities, but you have two interesting channels in the root, one in the sacral, one in the root. You have the 60th hexagram, and the 60th hexagram is the north node. It connects to the south node in the 56. So the north node prenatally was in the 41, and the south node was in the 31. So what I'm getting from the chart in terms of what's activated is that you came in as a healer, and your life is here for the collective, not for the self. Do you know that about yourself?
I've slowly come to that conclusion. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's very significant for you. Now, let me say also, Graham, I don't ever read two charts with a formula. I mean, you could have a very similar chart to another person, and if the planets are aligned differently, I'm going to read it completely differently. Because it's not just about hexagrams, it's about what planets are in that hexagram, in what sign, and where are they in the body map. So, because you are so empathic and so super sensitive to energy, it's not likely that your parents got it. Most parents don't. One of the components of my work as a clinician was that I had my children when I was in graduate school. They're 11 months apart. And they're so different. They're both cancers. But my daughter, my son is a generator, really strong. And my daughter was a manifesting generator in her human design. But then she loses it. And so, having been in the field of psych and studying child development, when my kids were 2 and 3, I went, wait a minute. I know child development. I'm an expert in it. And I don't know what to do when my kids have a tantrum. So I studied communication and I studied consciousness and I started meditating and looking at a chart like yours, where you have the 5432, that is Saturn and Earth, and you get the 12th gate in your natal chart and you keep the 12th gate everywhere. And it's the 11th and the 12th in your Sun Earth, Sag and Gemini. You wanted to communicate your consciousness. I don't know if anyone listened when you were a kid, but you didn't shut up about it. And I don't know what they told you, but if I'd been around you, I would have recognized that you were seeing auras, you were channeling information and knew things that nobody told you about people around you. And probably as a child, Sag that you are, Sag that I am, you blurted things out and they were horrified. Do you remember the looks on the face when you were a truth teller and they didn't want to hear the truth?
clock. Like, yeah.
It's the 5818. Now, I have the 5818 and I have the 4816 in every single design. I've always said that my gift as a clinician, and I'm telling you this because I think it is a gift you have, even without the 48, is that because of the 58 in the lunar design, you hear frequency. If somebody says something to you, let's say they're telling you about something, doesn't matter what, a story, an experience, something that happened to them. If their inner sacral voice is not aligned to what they're telling you, you know it, you feel it, and you want to confront it. True? You know if things are aligned. You hear it. It's a frequency you feel in your body. Now, I have a defined sacral in my lunar. And I kept saying to Ra, I'm not a manifester. I wait and I wait and I wait and I wait until I know because I know because I know. That's something you probably do a lot of. But you don't necessarily know it sacrally. You know it, how would you say it? You know it at a level of intuitive conceptualization. You know when you're right and you know when you're wrong. True? And when you hear somebody speaking, you know if they're telling the truth and you know if they're sincere. Now, you do remain a projector, very rare to see in composite. Um, but you have one, two, three, four activations in your self center. Let's look at what the 1-8 is and the 731. The 1-8, oh, Pluto in Scorpio, Mars in Taurus. So, when you know what you know, no one can tell you you don't know it. And when you know something about somebody, you use your creative intelligence. I'm going to show you the matrices because they're really important for you. Let me make this bigger. These are the 4-world matrices. So in your chart, what's very important to recognize is which worlds come together where in you. Now, the physical body has that 5432. And the 5342 is only in the physical world, the mental world, and the spiritual world. Okay, hold that thought. The angelic matrix, see, the spiritual world and the physical world have no mind. And the 59-6, it's here in light green, because it's all Virgo, you get the 6 in the physical world and the 59 in the emotional world. So let's go back to your designs. So the 5432 is taking you and communicating to you that you go from the emotional world making, and so in the tree of life, the first path we pass through in our incarnation in this life is instructing us that the sacral center is where the spirit lives. Now, if your spirit is living in the sacral and your sacral is undefined, it doesn't say you don't have it, but it says that you are open to all possibilities of what's right for you. However, if it doesn't meet your goals, and if it doesn't align spiritually, you're not somebody who's going to want any part of it. And that may be hard for you to stand up for, but it's critical for you. Pluto in Scorpio is rather strong. And it went from, I should remember this because I did it yesterday, but let me just look it up. I want to tell you. Okay, I can look in this document. 83 to 95. Write that down. 1983 to 1995. You were born in 1990. So you had 5 years, formative years in Scorpio. And then it moved to Sagittarius from 95 to 2008. And then Capricorn 2008 to 23. And now we're in Aquarius. And the reason I'm bringing it up for you is because the Scorpio 1-8 Scorpio Taurus, both fixed signs, creative energy, and formative years. So it would have, who was around you then would have influenced how you learned to process what you were picking up and knowing. And so any releasing you need to do about your creative drive and the way you channel information from other people had its roots in that period of time. Later, Pluto was still in Scorpio in the 43. So the 43 activates the ajna. So, Graham, I think that you know by your breathing if you're balanced. Critical to watch your breath. If you're in a situation and your breath changes, you know you're emotionally triggered. And you are a transformer for emotions of other people. So as a child, I don't know what that did to you, but I would Are your parents still alive?
They are, yeah, they're both alive. They're
Um,
separated, yeah.
um, can you talk to them?
Yes, I can talk to them both.
Then get as much history as you can about your early childhood. Who was around you? Who did you feel really close to? And who, ask them who you felt, who you were attached to when you were a baby. And then let's look at that chart. Because I'm curious, in the tree of life, these three channels between the root and the splenic center are the administrative intelligence. In the tree of life, there's one channel called Shin, and it's called perpetual intelligence. What we're supposed to learn from that is that we need to use our emotional creative intelligence to transform emotional reactivity. Now, there's nothing in your solar plexus in any level except the mental world. What that tells me is you're not emotional unless you're around other people. And then it's not your emotion. You're trying to transform emotion for them, and you don't always know how to do it without depleting your own energy. And if you wait, you do get the 42. It's black. It's Venus in Aries. 17 is in Aries. Chiron is 62. Graham, when you pick up energy emotionally from somebody, here's the question I want you to ask them. What do you know about what you're feeling? And what would you like to have happen? Um, I have I've done some lectures and included some things on clean language. Clean questions are pretty important for you because otherwise, I'm not sure from your chart whether you've learned in your composite. I mean, we all live out of our composite. So you use yourself as a healer for other people. Um, Talking to them, listening to them. If you find that your breath is getting tight, you're taking in energy. Um, Now, do you have digestive issues?
Mm, nothing really comes to mind, but maybe I'm just unaware of
No,
them.
no, no.
Yeah.
You may not. You know, Ross said the 40-37 is eating and tribal and all of that. It didn't, what Ross said medically did not hold up. What he said about don't make promises if you don't have it, if you have an undefined heart center and self center, none of that held up. It was statistically insignificant. So if you have an open heart center, you're not more prone to heart attack. Or if you have an open self center, you can still promise things. There's a lot of choice we have within our body map. In your case, you're here in service. You're not here on a personal journey. And you're a storyteller. So I want to look at your chart. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planets in Capricorn. In this, boy, when you take on a project, you're obsessed. Is that true?
Yeah, I've been told that I need to work less sometimes. Yes.
No, you don't. Um, you know, you you have an unusual chart. You came in with a mission, and I think the mission is inspiring people and moving them away from their emotional traumas, whatever those may be. Um, you can be a little pushy when you know what you know because you know it, and you have a Leo ascendant, so you can't help yourself. When you pick up energy from people, you're going to talk about it. Um, I was looking to see if there's writing, but I think this is your progress chart. And right now, it says to me that you're deciding what you want to do, and you're also heavy into determining what your values are and what's right for you. And that the fact that Pluto is now in Aquarius, hitting your progressed sun in Aquarius, and your moon in Aquarius, your progressed moon in Aquarius. Other progressed moon is in Pisces, which is the values, and you're not clear on it yet. Do not be in a rush. It's not time. You don't yet know what you need to know. You're getting there. Um, the progressed ascendant is 2 degrees of Virgo, and your Chiron is coming up to it. Your south node is on it, and the ascendant 9 degrees of Virgo. Oh, there it is. May I suggest a strategy?
Please.
Your stellium of Uranus and Venus, the conjunction of the moon, Venus, Uranus in your 6th house, are in a nice trine to your progressed ascendant, 9 degrees. If you're working on something that can be monetized, now is the time. And in order for that to happen, you need to think outside the box. And there's another trine between the North Node and your progressed midheaven. Um, do you work with someone? Do you have a partner?
No, it's kind of, I don't like, I have a thought partner, I guess, in a way, but they're not like super, super close to the project I'm working on, but they are interested in it.
Um,
We talk-
there's a lot going through your seventh house, progressed seventh house, and that's legal partnerships. And it's heavy in Aquarius. So 13 degrees. Um, I think don't hold yourself back is the message. Um, if you don't have an external partner, it's your internal partner. And when you're working for the public, you may be a little more esoteric than they can understand. So bring it down to earth. Um, so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle. You've had some stumbling blocks, I'd say, in the last few months, and I think they're cleared. Now that Pluto has passed your Saturn, progressed Saturn, you're in the clear. So to go back to the charts, you always have to wait. Because of the split, you always have to wait in manifesting the 3 months that it takes you to really know if you're aligned spiritually. And it's going to have to do with the forces that come into your world. People, information, and inner questioning. You need to spend time every day writing down gratitudes. Now, when I do gratitudes, I instruct my students to write the because statement. I'm grateful that I could eat dinner because I have two hands and food on my table. And I could pick up my fork, or I could, go to the most mundane level in a because statement. The gratitudes are not about, oh, I'm grateful to be alive, or I'm grateful that I brushed my teeth today. Why? How? Uh, it's a tip I picked up from the Mayo Clinic when they did a study of people who had just had surgery, and the people who did the because statement healed faster than the people who didn't. Very interesting. So, Graham, do you have any questions about your chart or what I'm seeing or what is up ahead for you?
Yeah. Yeah, wow. Let's see. For the I guess I have so many questions because I'm thinking of this in the context of like this platform that I've been building, and I have had a lot of like questions around like, is this the right time? And I feel like I've been working on it for like 3 years, and there's always been like some sort of almost like mental block to like getting it out. And it feels kind of like now is the time, and it feels like it's aligned in this, I guess, call to make it less esoteric makes a lot of sense. So I'm trying to think of like what the question is necessarily here, but
So what I'm hearing you say
yeah,
is that you don't always know if it's time to take action because you don't know if your goals are aligning with the cosmic energy.
I think that's
Um, every month we have transits. Every month the moon goes around the whole wheel. At some point every month, you know it's time to take action. You feel it. If you have goals that you've laid out and you think your program is ready, test it. Give it to some friends. Run it by people. What you're saying. I mean, what I heard you say before we turned the recording on was that it's some kind of platform where people get statements.
yeah, it's like I basically made like a simplified I Ching as a onboarding point to spirituality for people who are not privy.
Have
And
you seen the new expanded I Ching, the missing I Ching?
I have not, no.
Let me grab the book for you.
Oh, cool.
You see it?
I do. The Lost Octave. Who's the
And
author? Or-
it's Robert James Comber, Comber.
um, cool. Yeah. Yeah, the premise is essentially like having a set of 64 values you can live by, because that's like a language that lay people can understand. And then
Ah,
the reflection questions are an easy way to be like say if the sun right now is in 34, like power or strength, it's like, what does power mean to me? How is power showing up in my life? And so it's like a way to
I would
like,
recommend that you do some research on clean language.
okay,
Um, the questions, what I've found in using the matrices, and part of why my work has expanded to the four worlds, is that when as a clinician and specializing especially in relationships, um, I found that the regular psychological language doesn't work. So, um, if you're working with spirit, you need clean language. It has no kinesthetic, auditory, or visual cues to it. Like, and with, um, what was the word you used for the 34? With,
power.
well, it's the power of the great. With this energy,
Uh-huh.
what do you know about this energy? Would be a clean question. If you ask about what somebody feels, you're putting them into emotion. If you ask what they know, they have to go inside to themselves and self reflect. So, um, David Grove is the man who developed clean language. His ex wife, Kai Davies Lynn, developed it with him. She lives in England. I studied with her. I studied with other people. The other people, not a pure system. I like to go to source. So the language you use in your app is going to be very important in how people respond to it and what your intention is. So if you're using the body graph, you would ask, you might, in my Beyond Human Design book, I recommend clean language a lot for certain gates and channels. Others not so important, but for you, not being given cognition rather than what's right for you is important. And always rely on your breathing because that is existent everywhere.
Hmm. When say like I'm noticing my breathing getting off, does me coming back and almost like regulating it
Well, if you
intentionally?
begin to pay attention, you're going to notice that when somebody is emotional in your aura, your breathing tightens up. And so one way to not pick up the energy unconsciously is to pay attention to your breathing. Because if somebody comes into your field and you get the stress of their emotion, it's going to tell you it's the other person, not you. Therefore, you move into a mental world doer, even though you're not a manifester. You're going to verbalize to them what you're picking up psychically because you know what you know and you know it about them. And nobody needs to tell you you don't know it. You know it. And when you know what you know it. And more often than not, it's creative intelligence coming from the emotional world. So all of the 1156, the 4323, and the 1762. The 1762 is a portal to the spiritual world. The 4323 and the 1156 are in the emotional angelic world. So it's a bridge between the mental world and the emotional angelic world. And that is where you function. You're constantly bridging the worlds. And you don't always know you're bridging them because you don't have your gut turned on, but you have your frequency with your ears. So you're using different modality than what somebody with a sacral center might use, but you're not broken and you're not lacking. You have it, you just came in to use it as a channel. And if you wanted to be a trans medium, you could be. Are you aware that you channel?
No, I'm not. How do I do that? Or I open my phone?
You already do it, but you begin to pay attention to what you really do know and how you know it. And don't let design tell you you're broken. You know, a projector is not about being recognized. It's about you knowing what you know. You recognizing yourself and what you want and what you can do. And when things hook up for you and say to you, now is when to act. Nobody's broken. Everybody has all 64 channels. I mean, 64 gates, 36 channels, 148 composite channels. We wouldn't be in a body if we didn't have everything. The activations are simply like an exclamation point or bold face font. It emphasizes it for you. That's why I started with saying, make sure you write your goals down and listen, because that's how you perceive. So I think we can stop unless you have some other questions.
I had a question about when you were saying with the breathing, like if somebody comes in with emotional energy, like is the way, I guess you were saying like to vocalize like what I'm like picking up on, does that like energetically kind of like separate me from that, or like how does that work?
Well, once you know what you've picked up from someone,
Uh-huh.
you release it. My husband's a physical empath. He's a medical doctor. And before I had the charts, and was defined as a projector. He's not. He's a very strong manifesting generator, but he would come home from the office and I'd say, who did you see today? This isn't you. It's up energy. Oh, I guess my dog left. Uh-oh. Hold on.
Sure.
Be right back.
Yeah.
Now my husband came in and he went down to see him, but he can't be trusted because he eats paper. Not my husband, the dog.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Not good luck.
So you're picking up in your body what people feel, but you also perceive what they know, and you can speak it if you want to. If you don't want to, breathe and release. But become aware of how psychic you are and how much you know that you don't want to know you know.
Are there any like practices or books or whatever that would help me kind of structure that process or come into awareness in that way?
Meditate. Um, I like TM because I've been a transcendental meditator since 1974. And people who did TM continue doing it, whereas people who do other meditations fall off the wagon. I still meditate every day, all these years. So there are no books. I do teach. I am going to do a 5-day experience again in January, which takes people through each world over 5 days. It's not expensive, and it was life-changing the first time I did it for many people. Um, I am teaching 2 classes on the 4 worlds. Um, and I'm letting people in for 1 more month. I'm going to review and then it's closed. One's for human design practitioners and one is for people who are not. But I am teaching how to do readings. So, I would read Elizabeth H. Initiation is a great book about initiations and consciousness. Brother of the Third Degree by Will Garver, one of my favorite books. Um, I think you know. I don't think you need any. instruction. I think people would distort what you know. Do meditate. TM is non-intrusive. If you don't want to do TM, just set a time and do it every day. And ask the question and keep a journal. And what do I know now? And given this person, what do I know about them now? Clean questions. That's all you need. I think if you sign up for my archives, there I did post, and there may be a blog on my website on clean language. And you can always call me.
Cool. Yeah, the clean language was something I'm really interested in looking into. Um, I had another question just in general around like the projector, like being a projector, and you were saying that, that's not super common. And I guess I'm curious, like what to think of that and like how I fit in to the world in a more unique way.
Don't overthink it. You have everything, including the sacral center, even though it's not defined. And it gives you all possibility. You know what would be helpful for you? Access consciousness bars.
Access consciousness bars? What is that?
It's a healing tool by Dane, Gary Douglas and Dane Hare. And there are 32 points on the head. And the healing statement is right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, point of creation and point of destruction, all nines, shorts, boys, povads, and beyond. It releases. And I'm saying it would be good for you because it works on the head centers. And that's where your energy is. It's they have a website, they have some books, they're all over YouTube. Marvin and I studied it in 2011, and I use the implant bands at night. The implant band is the indentation in the back of your head, and if you put your hands there, 4 fingers, and hold it there for 20 minutes, it releases stuff. It's the only technique that we've experienced where when we do a treatment on each other, if our axis is out, it goes back into place. Powerful. So there are tools for you to stay balanced, but you have everything you need. So keep me posted on how things go and how you feel post-reading.
Cool. I will. Thank you so much. This is like a very unique experience. I really appreciate your system and guidance and everything.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much again. Also, I love your necklace. I didn't see that until you stood up. It's so
That is Noble. Everything is named after Noble, my first cat.
Oh wow. Oh, I was wondering where the word came from.
He's changed my life, gave me courage, and taught me that I live for love. And then when he died at 22 is when my vet friend said, you have to have kittens. So 13 cats later, I had my twin kittens. And that is, my work is dependent on my twin kittens.
How so? I'm so curious.
Well, because it was the twin kittens that gave me the differentiation of the lunar minute, because one died and one didn't.
Yeah.
So I always wear him every day.
Oh, is that also him in the photo behind you?
Yes, that's him.
Oh my God. I have my own first cat right here. This is this is Rupert.
Oh, that's a big boy, huh?
He is.
She? He or she?
He's a he.
He's
And
beautiful.
yeah,
Oh,
hi.
he has attitude.
He does. He's a triple Scorpio, and
Oh my.
he he'll be really nice, and he'll like love and say like
Graham,
huh?
animals give us the sacral center. So keep him with you when you're meditating or working on your program.
Will do.
Animals, I uh, always tell people to meditate with their animals because the animals are in the 15 gate matrix and they keep us connected to spirit.
Okay.
That's why we need them. We have two dogs and two cats.
Wow. That's really
And
interesting.
in the video, one of my cats walked across my credenza. So
Wow.
you'll see him in the video. Okay, take care.
Cool. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this Noble Energy Map reading. And go to my calendar at www.nobleenergywellness.com and schedule your own free YouTube reading with me and be empowered in your life.